The following podcast may contain adult language and conversations revolving around situations not suitable for immature audiences. Spoilers and general political incorrectness can often be expected, so listener discretion is advised.
They must be destroyed on sight!
Well, hello there, listeners. Lee Russell here. As you can tell, this is an intermission episode. I'm not sure of what intermission episode this is. I think we're somewhere in the mid-teens now. Doesn't really matter. Like I said, no real episode this week. I could have swore we said we were going to be cutting down on episodes anyway, where we were going to go to like a every other week schedule, but so far we haven't really stuck to that so much. Just this week ran into some real life scheduling problem issues, kind of bullshit, and we just decided we'll do it next week. So that's what we're doing. We'll be recording again on Friday or Saturday. If you're not aware, we're jumping full on into another extended series of crime films. This is going to be a big one, folks. I think we have like 13 episodes or something left before we hit episode 100. So we're going to be doing most of those are just going to be crime noir, neo-noir. We're going to be looking into all sorts of different stuff, having some fun. I know Daniel and I both been watching like a lot of crime films in the last few months anyway, and we've had some interesting stuff we've come across that we wanted to get into. So we're going to be doing that, and we've had some pretty good responses to some of the crime stuff we've done in the past, last year. So we're going to go on with more of that. And our 100th episode is going to be a bit more special. We're going to be doing a commentary track for George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead from 1968. It's probably going to be a lot of booze. It's going to be me, Daniel, and Paul, or Daniel, Paul, and myself, if I was to use proper English. And that should be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to that. Of course, we get the name They Must Be Destroyed on Sight from Dawn of the Dead, and we did our big Dawn of the Dead episode, so we decided we're going to change it up a little and honor Mr. Romero's film work again, and this time we're going to do it in commentary form, and it should be interesting because Paul, being a native of Pennsylvania, has a lot more insight and brings a lot more local flavor to the discussions as far as those films are concerned, so really look forward to seeing what he has to say, because he's met a lot of people who were actually involved in the making of that film, behind and in front of the camera. So it should be a lot of fun. And so that's essentially the future of the podcast for the next few months. May or may not have some guests on. We're hoping to. I think our friend Kit Power may be back for a couple of episodes at the very least. And I think we were talking about doing White Heat and The Untouchables. I know he loves both those films, so we might be doing that together. Stay tuned, we'll find out. Speaking of Kit Power, in the next month or so, you will see me pimping out an episode of his Watching RoboCop podcast. I was on an episode of that with Kit. And if you're not familiar with that podcast, that is where he sits down with a new person every month and does a full-length commentary for the film RoboCop from 1987. And so far, it's been a really interesting sort of podcast. I've enjoyed the episodes I've heard so far. I haven't listened to every one of them, but the ones I have listened to have come up with interesting things to talk about. As far as RoboCop goes, it's definitely a real film nerd podcast, so that's what I appreciate about it. Everybody comes in watching the same movie, and they all have different perspectives on it. We had some fun discussions. I won't spoil anything, but Kit and I did come up with some interesting things to talk about that I don't think anyone else has so far on the podcast. So it was a lot of fun, and like I said, I'll be pimping that out whenever it comes out. It should be in the next month or so. I don't know how many episodes he has in the can and what his schedule is for releasing them, but they will show up on the Facebook page when it does get released. So there you go. I will pimp out one podcast I've been listening to in the last little while that I really like. I'm probably the last person in the world to have finally started listening to this one. But if you're an H.P. Lovecraft fan, the H.P. Lovecraft Literary Podcast is something to check out. It's at hppodcraft.com. I'll link it in the show notes. And eventually I'll link it on the actual Podbean site as well, once I get off my ass and fix broken links and fix some broken images and shit like that I haven't been able to get to for the longest time. But anyway, the podcast is really well done. It's two really hardcore Lovecraft nerds who have been involved in doing Lovecraft adaptations themselves. They talk with other people who do Lovecraft adaptations. They do readings of the work. Every episode essentially looks at a story by Lovecraft, one of his short stories or one of his novellas, and they just basically give you a synopsis. They go through the story. They give you their thoughts on the story. They dig into some of the critical writings on Lovecraft stories, and they talk with Lovecraft scholars as well. And they do really sort of short, concise episodes for the most part, usually a half hour long at the most. And then they also do full readings of stories as well, which of course go on significantly much longer, but they do those sort of full radio style play broadcast reading of the thing. You know, what you usually get from some of the better audio books, where they sprinkle a little bit of atmosphere into the actual reading of the material. So a lot of their new stuff is under a paywall, but the paywall is very small, and they have a backlog of episodes that you don't have to pay for at all, which is great. Highly recommend this. In fact, I think the next time I do an intermission episode, I'll be basically focusing on Lovecraft adaptations that I like, and I think eventually we'll be covering some for regular episodes as well, just for the hell of it. Okay, now we're going to cut off to some music, and before that, I'm going to give you some trailers for podcasts that I love, that I usually pimp on the regular episodes as well. I know I might have gone a little overboard there for a little while, doing it almost every episode, playing all the trailers. I'm sorry if that's pissed anyone off. No one said anything, but I can sort of understand that maybe some people might get a little tired of seeing me pad shows with that. I try to cut down to one or two now with every episode, instead of doing like the whole 4 or 5 that I have. I'm also going to put in a new little promo spot that I did for this show. And then we're going to cut to some music, 2 or 3 tracks, I don't know how many, and we'll come back for the end of the show and go with some more music. We'll be right back, guys.
Great coffee.
Hey. Chad, who's that strange, somber man on the cover of that book you're reading?
Oh, that's H.P. Lovecraft.
Oh, I've heard of him, but I never really got into his stuff. It's kind of strange and hard to read.
No, I used to think that too. But that all changed when I started listening to the H.P. Lovecraft Literary Podcast.
What's that?
The H.P. Lovecraft Literary Podcast is a weekly podcast.
Tell me more.
Well, these two really smart and hilarious guys give a synopsis of the story, then they talk about its background, the critical views, and what it says about the author.
Well, where can I listen?
Let me tell you, Chris, you can go to hppodcraft.com, or heck, just subscribe through iTunes. It's that easy.
Oh, Chad, I'm so excited. Now I can listen to this podcast and pretend to all my snooty friends that I actually read and understand H.P. Lovecraft.
Hey, that's what I do. Oh, dear.
hppodcraft.com.
Here's what some people are saying about the Projection Booth podcast.
This podcast takes no shortcut in producing outstanding content. How they haven't become more widely recognized is beyond me.
I love this show. Smart commentary, in-depth interviews, and great production.
It's obvious how serious these guys take their podcast and bring that next level of professionalism that anyone would be hard-pressed to match.
The Projection Booth podcast, with new episodes available every week at projectionboothpodcast.com.
Looking for something different in your podcast library? Then why not check out the Podcast Under the Stairs? I'm the host, Duncan McLeish, and joining me each week will be a special guest as we examine some classic, old-school horror favourites, as well as some modern classics. That's not to say that we don't tackle some of the, let's say, more questionable entries into the horror genre. And if all that wasn't enough, we have a subset of shows called Baz v Horror, where our horror novice, the Baz, tackles horror in all shapes and forms. and see who will come out victorious. So what are you waiting for? The show can be found at podcastunderthestairs.wordpress.com and on Stitcher and iTunes. The Podcast Under the Stairs is a proud member of Legion Podcast Network. This is Duncan McLeish from Under the Stairs, signing off.
Badasses, Boobs, and Body Counts is a weekly podcast that discusses grindhouse and exploitation cinema. Your three hosts, Mike.
It's a quick. Thank you. Come again.
Not racist at all. Mark.
If you bend over and you have what is essentially a pubic cottontail coming out of the crack of your ass, you need to do some goddamn grooming.
And listener favorite, Iris.
I'd not have sex with that horse.
Will make you question your own political correctness while laughing at theirs. Episodes drop every Sunday and can be found by searching BB and BC podcasts via Libsyn, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music, and iHeartRadio. You can also listen to episodes directly from the show's website at badassesboobsandbodycounts.com.
Clytus, I'm bored. What plaything can you offer me today?
An obscure body in the SK system, Your Majesty. The inhabitants refer to it as the planet Earth.
How peaceful it looks.
Most effective, Your Majesty. Will you destroy this Earth?
Destroy it utterly.
Send Rick and Danny in Wool Rocket Ajax.
So, just destroy it?
That's what Ming said. Don't you ever listen?
Well, there's no arguing with Ming.
Hail Ming. Wait! You see those transmissions on the Visua screen?
Crow? Nightmare on Elm Street?
Chud 2? Black Belt Jones?
Nightbreed?
What's a critter?
Oh, I've seen those things.
Flash? I guess we could wait a while before the destruction.
Yeah, and watch some movies.
And talk about them.
The Hail Ming Power Hour. Disobedience to Ming. For now.
You can find us at Legion Podcasts.
You can find us on Facebook.
iTunes.
We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram.
At You know what? Just Google it for yourself.
Just Google it, you bastages.
Hail Ming.
Breaking 2? Electric Boogaloo?
Samurai Cop?
Army of Darkness?
Flashdance?
We might destroy the planet if it's Flashdance.
Did you ever see a film at such a young age it left you traumatized with cinematic wounds? Necrophilia. It's a dead issue, man. Don't push it. Cinema Psyops is a weekly podcast documenting an ongoing experiment on the mind of an unwilling test subject.
No one should have to watch this movie.
Oh, no one should have to watch this?
No one should have to watch this movie.
Surprisingly, it's not a topic that a lot of people really want to tackle.
I'm shocked, prudes.
I know, really.
Right?
It's the next sexual frontier that no one wants to explore.
I am, in the most sincerest of senses, disappointed in you.
It takes a powerful goddess like Connie, jam her arm down the monster's throat and kill it. Oh, I'm still tripping out over that. Even as a kid, I was like, I gotta find a girl like that. Every week, I get a new look of disappointment that I never thought I could get out of it.
Unimaginable. At 12 years old, you should not be watching this movie.
Obviously.
At 13, you should not be. 14, you shouldn't be. I'm not entirely sure even 17-year-olds should be watching this.
Just because you're offended by something doesn't mean that you have the right to demand that it doesn't exist. Watching this film again, I had all of this like little nerd glee with everything that kept
little
popping
history
up.
all popping up
absolutely.
at you.
So I totally loved this film.
Hey, I know why you couldn't see that. It's because your brain's warped from watching this shit at 12 years old.
Yeah, this is a rough movie. I told you ahead of time when we were getting ready to do it that it was going to be a rough
How could you watch
one.
this shit at 12?
Because physical wounds heal, cinematic ones don't. Listen to Cinema Psyops.
Oh, good now. This is Al Pacino. Now, if you don't listen to the They Must Be Destroyed On-Site podcast, you might have a great ass and think you're cock of the walk, but you got your head straight up it. Okay. Ferocious, ain't I?
place. I even had a gorilla on smoke of this mad man that was strong for a while. You back bikini girl with machine gun. Bikini girl with machine gun. Let's how a killer hates all the fun. Bikini girl with machine gun. Intoxicated till I get it. What the hell can I see? Kind of violence and liquor with a close fish by all my skills and land to be the bitch of my bikini girl with my machine gun. Bikini girl with my machine gun. Bikini girl with my machine gun. And I'm gonna get on my ball, got my own ideas, find the righteous king. You can keep the reward and just as soon as I say bye. Bikini girl with my machine gun. Bikini girl with my machine gun. The shop will kill you, it's not with fun. Bikini girl with my machine gun, baby. Bikini girl with my machine gun. Bikini girl with my machine gun.
Alright, we're back, and wasn't that great music? I have no idea what I played, but I usually decide that after the fact for these intermission things. I don't plan them out very well. I apologize, but whatever. You'll get over it. But yeah, there you go. We're done. We're going to go with some more music here, but before we do, of course, check us out at our official website, TMBDOS.podbean.com. And there you can find all of our links. You can find our iTunes, our YouTube, and our Facebook. Go to iTunes and subscribe if you haven't. Leave us a 5-star rating if you so choose. It'd be very helpful. And if you see any other ratings on there, click the little yes under them that say they were helpful. Apparently that does something as well. I don't know. I hear all the other podcasts say it, so I'm going to say it as well. Also, if you do leave us an iTunes review, please let us know, because I have to change the region on my iTunes to see some of these things. So if you're like from the US and you leave a review, or the UK or something like that, I actually have to change my iTunes region code from Canada to the US to actually read the fucking reviews. But if you do, we'll read the reviews out on the show, and thank you for it and all that stuff. So thank you very much. And yeah, we're gonna go with something else. Again, I don't know what the fuck it is, but I'm sure you'll enjoy it. And we will see you guys next episode. Be good, guys. Bye-bye.
Hold tight, count of 3, gotta stay close by me. And hold tight, sing and shout, just wrap around about and hold tight, shut your eyes, girl, you set me up for forget the other guys, you'll never fall, this time you call. Hold tight, hold tight, hold tight, hold tight, make me feel what you say is for real. And hold tight, carousel, girl, you'll send ring my bell. And hold tight, game will fly, swing it low, swing it high. We're gonna make the sky, you'll never fall, it's time you call. Hold tight, hold tight, hold tight. Sing and shout, just wrap around the bell. And hold tight, shut your eyes, girl, you set me up for forget the other guys, you'll never fall, it's time you call. Hold tight, hold tight, hold tight.
Thank you for listening to They Must Be Destroyed on Sight. For past episodes, links to the host's other stuff, and links to various podcasts and websites of similar interest, please visit us at tmbdos.podbean.com. There you can also find our iTunes, YouTube, and Facebook links. Please join our Facebook group, as this is the best way to get in contact with us and to keep up to date with what's coming up on the podcast. We also can be found as part of the Oi Spaceman family of podcasts at oispaceman.com, where you can find various sci-fi themed podcasts about Doctor Who, Red Dwarf, Firefly, and classic sci-fi novels. If you decide to subscribe to us through iTunes, please take a moment to leave us a star rating and a review. Thank you. Drive through.